You know what my favorite text is? A waypoint in the onX Hunt app to a goblin turkey. The list on the onX Hunt app features for chasing turkeys is long, but knowing exact public and private boundaries and land ownership details will help you find more places to hunt, whether that's on public or private. I'll be toting the Hunt app through the spring woods in a few states this year, and I recommend you do the same if you want more turkeys on your table. Also, onX has a special offer for you. Use code BEARGREASE to receive 20% off your membership at onxmaps.com/hunt this spring.
There's nothing like snook hook sets at dawn or catching a tarpon in the moonlight. Find your next fishing trip made easy on fishingbooker.com and experience the magic of the Sunshine State or any other destination on your fishing bucket list. Book a blue water adventure in search of sailfish or go snapper fishing with the kids. With over 6,000 captains and trips to choose from, planning your next one just got a whole lot easier. Download the Fishing Booker app on the Google Play or App Store, or visit them online at fishingbooker.com to book your trip today.
Maui Nui is on a mission to help balance axis deer populations for the good of our environment, communities, and food systems on the island of Maui. They've shared over 126,000 pounds of nutrient-dense protein with the Maui community. Secure your spot now. Become a snack subscriber and join in helping to build more resilient food and ecosystems on Maui. Visit MauiNuiVenison.com. That's MAUINUI venison.com and use promo code BEAR for 20% off your first order. My name is Clay Newcomb, and this is a production of the Bear Grease podcast called the Bear Grease Render, where we render down, dive deeper, and look behind the scenes of the actual Bear Grease podcast. Presented by FHF Gear, American-made, purpose-built hunting and fishing gear that's designed to be as rugged as the places we explore.
Put your phone on silent, Alvin.
Yes, ma'am.
Because you know it'll go off.
Alvin, what kind of wood are we burning there?
That right there, I think that's some hackberry.
Hackberry.
That bigger stump right
so
there.
we're sitting around a hackberry fire. It's November the 3rd, and we're in southeast Oklahoma. And you may have heard of 1 week in November, which is Meat Eater's whitetail show. We're down here whitetail hunting. And I've got a very eclectic group of guests that I'm going to introduce individually. Sherry, do you know that typically the Bear Grease Render, which that's what this is a render. So Bear Grease podcast is where we have a documentary style, big, robust story. The Render is where we just gather up a group of people that talk about it. Typically there's one group of people, which is my wife, Brent Reeves, who now we all
Noah's undercover.
Suspect. we're curious of his reasons for being my friend. My dad, Josh Spillmaker, Misty Newcomb, my lovely wife, and then a sixth person that bounces around from a lot of different people. For the last several weeks, I've been on the road, and so I've been having renders with all kind of different people, and you get really people like that, but they also like the regular crew. So anyway, it's good to be in southeast Oklahoma. I'm being really hosted here by Alvin and Sherry Grigg. Man, Alvin, I was trying to think. We met. I almost know exactly how long ago it was. 7 years ago, because Fern, my plott coonhound, is 8 years. Well, she'll be 8 on November 11th, and she was about a year old, and she was a year and a half old. No. You're shaking your head.
She was younger than that. She was. He hadn't really even started in the woods yet.
Really?
Yeah. You called me because I had some Steve Hurd's bloodline in Bluff Creek.
You didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And actually the one we had was Sherry's dog. But anyways, and Steve would give you my number, and I remember she hadn't really. I mean,
That's
I'm gonna
right.
say she was 6 or 8 months old. You know, you'd started fooling with her, but I don't think you'd actually been. I remember her first coon she had treed. You remember you telling me about
Yeah.
that.
Well, I want to come back to that I'm going to introduce everybody, but that's a big story, and I want to tell it. Alvin and Sherry Grigg. Sherry, say hi to everybody.
Hello.
Great. Sherry, this is going to be fun having you on here. So there to my right, directly to their left, is Big Dirty Dave Gardner. Dave, good to see you, man.
Good to be here.
Say ye.
This is your first time on the render, right?
Yeah, first time caller, long time listener.
Everybody here thinks Dave looks like Dale Brisby, so got the big stash and
I
pretty
think it
good
must
head
just
of
be
hair.
the hair. Yeah.
So Dave, tell us what you do.
I'm a photographer and camera guy.
Yeah. Me and Dave we were counting today, we've been on 5 shoots together. So, shoots that like last over a week usually. So we've spent a lot of time like standing like uncomfortably close together in a tree.
A lot of time
into
sitting in a
each
tree
other's eyes.
together. Yep.
Right. Well, we're going to get back to you, Dave. To my left, Bryan Ringles, also known as Rhino. You're the first official farrier, real live farrier that we've had on the podcast. And I got some questions for you.
All right, I got some answers.
Good. Farriers have a lot of answers. I found that it may not be farriers that are passionate people, but people that are around farriers and equine people, man, they see you doing anything on a horse or mule hoof, you get a lot of opinions, don't you?
Yes, sir, very many.
So how long you been chewing horses?
I've been full-time 8 years in this coming February.
8 years.
Yeah.
Is that a good profession to be in?
It's been good to me.
Really?
I wish I would have started it when I was 25 instead of 35 or 40. But
Yeah.
But yes, it's been real good to me.
Yeah. You shoot Alvin's horses?
I have in the past, yes.
Do you shoot your own horses, Alvin?
No, I tried one time. I was going to shoot my own, and all he got was fronts.
All he got was fronts?
Yeah.
Yeah.
As far as I made it.
Well, we're gonna have to come back to the horseshoeing thing,
Mhm.
all right? Because I got some questions, but I got to finish my introduction. To your left is Bryan Jumpy.
Yep.
Bryan, tell us what you do.
I'm the Cole County Sheriff.
Cole County, Oklahoma.
Yes, sir.
You're the sheriff.
Yes.
We called in the law for this, man.
Right.
well,
Outlaw. Called in the outlaw.
Well, we had to call in the law to talk about the outlaws. How long you been sheriff over here?
10 years. Been sheriff for 10 years and been law enforcement for 17
Okay.
total.
And so being a sheriff is an elected position.
Yes.
So you got to be a politician.
I'm not too good of a politician, but good enough to win the election.
This is like, I'm a grown man and know this, but I've never really heard anybody explain it. You have city police departments that have jurisdiction inside of cities.
Right.
And then sheriff departments have jurisdiction inside of counties.
Right.
And so they're taking care of rural issues and rural people that don't have a specific assignment to a city. Is that right?
Right. We also work the city too. We have jurisdiction in the whole county.
Okay. Is there anything that specific that a sheriff would do that just like a city police officer wouldn't do? Like types of crimes, or is it
No, it's all about the same.
just all about the same?
Yeah.
What would you say you spend most of your time doing as sheriff?
Paperwork, office work, budget meetings.
Really?
Don't spend a lot of time on the street no more.
So you're managing people,
Right.
managing the whole outfit.
Yes.
Is that good or bad?
It's got its good days and bad days. A lot of bad days on it. But
Yeah.
you're either on top of the world or on bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's no in between.
Yeah.
It's either going really good or really bad.
Alvin, how long have you known Bryan?
Oh,
They call him Jumpy. I hesitated. Jumpy.
I've known him my entire life, and we've been great friends for probably 95, 6, about 95, 96. We've been really close friends since then. But I've known him when I was a little baby kid. I knew him.
Yeah. Hey, you told me you had a interesting entry point into law enforcement.
Yeah.
How'd you get into it?
That's kind of a long story. I don't know if you got time to hear all of it.
Yeah, we do.
But I never got along good with law enforcement my whole life. And when I was about 34 years old, I had a buddy that was in law enforcement. And he come knocking on my door one day, and I opened the door and seen my buddy. He was standing there in uniform. I thought, oh, this can't be good, you know. And I said, what are you doing here, Jerry? He tells me, he said, well, we got a job opening down here at the city police and thought you got the right temperament to make a good cop. Won't you put your application in? I said, no. I said, Jerry, I don't even like cops. He said, I don't think I want to be one. He goes, well, just come out and ride with us a couple of weekends and see if you like it. Well, I got to riding with him on the weekends. Well, I got to liking it. I thought back in we was all hog hunting a lot. I thought, heck, this is a whole lot like hog hunting. You go catch a bad guy, tie him up, and throw him in a pen like we'd catch a hog, tie up and throw the hog in a pen, keep him. Then I eventually got hired on. It took a while to get hired on. I got hired on about a year later. I was 35 as well, like RT.
Yeah.
And I thought, man, this is going to be the best job ever. I'll be able to work evening shift and after work, I can coon hunt all night. And I'll coon hunt all night, and I can sleep biggest part of the day and get up and go to work and catch bad guys and then go coon hunting again.
Sounds like a good plan.
It was a good plan. It didn't work out that good, though.
If you had any guesses of why this sheriff is the first sheriff on the Bear Grease Render podcast, you've just heard why. This man's a coon hunter.
Hog hunter.
Hog hunter.
And he used to be a rodeo
So
clown.
carry on.
Well, that's really about it. I got started, and when I got started good, I thought, well, I'm going to be sheriff one day.
Really? So that was like a career ambition.
Yeah.
You were like, I want to be the sheriff.
Yep, and here I am. So
What's it take to be a good sheriff?
patience, you know, you got to have good deputies. Your deputies is what makes a good sheriff. If you ain't got good deputies, you don't have a good sheriff.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. So you got to manage your team.
right.
How many deputies do you have here in this county?
I usually have about 9. I'm short-handed right now because I've had to get rid of some of them.
Yeah. Big Dave, you got any questions for Bryan? Any law enforcement questions?
Yeah, actually, we were talking about this earlier, Clay. Now, why, if you were to pull somebody over and you're looking at their license and registration,
Oh, yeah.
would you ask them to come and sit in the front seat of the car with them?
Depends on the person. If you look like a shady individual, and I thought you was
Like Alvin?
like Alvin, or if I thought you was holding dope or been drinking, I'd invite you back to the car. A lot of
To
times
sit in the car with
to
you.
sit in the car with me.
Really?
They train you not to do that, but that's a good way to get them in the car and go talking to them. You can smell alcohol on them, or you know, get talking to them, and might have some dope in the pocket. You talk them out of the dope, or
Probably get a little more nervous sitting back there with you, don't they?
yeah.
You know, so tell him your story. And I mean, basically, me and him had the same story.
Oh,
Just at random, like a totally normal traffic stop. Go ahead.
oh yeah, I was just working a gig one night. I was filming a show, and on the way out of there, I rolled through a stop sign, and sure enough, there was a cop right there. And yeah, he asked me to come and sit in the front seat of his car while he was checking my license and registration,
Right.
insurance.
And then he didn't even give you a ticket.
Didn't even give me a ticket. Let me off with a warning.
Yeah.
Nice
Yeah.
guy.
It was the mullet, Dale.
It was No, I had the same thing happen in, I think I was in South Dakota and had a state trooper pull me over in the middle of the day. I was going just a few miles over the speed limit, and he was real nice, and we'd been hunting in Canada, and he was like, hey, you were going a few miles over, no big deal, but we like to keep it, you know, right there on the limit, and gave him everything, and he was like, hey, come sit in the car with me. And I was just like, it kind of wigged me out. I was like, what are we doing here, man? And anyway,
Yeah.
he just, and when I got in the car, we talked about hunting for like 20 minutes in his car.
Probably a fan.
No, this was
Probably
years
listener,
ago,
probably
man.
listener.
This was years ago. Years ago.
Yeah. Just checking you out.
Really?
Make sure he wasn't a bad guy.
He didn't just want to chat with me.
Right.
He had suspicions.
Yeah.
I'll be darned. What's the main thing going on around here that you guys are enforcing in terms of the law?
Drugs and stealing.
Just theft and
Yeah.
drugs.
Yeah, they go hand in hand.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, that's our main crimes around here is theft and drugs.
Theft and drugs. Well, that's really interesting. I look forward to hearing your thoughts on RT. I got to tell you guys a story. RT called me on the way here, like after dark, driving here. And RT, you know, I mean, in our conversation, like we're we're just like buddies, you know, talking. But it surprised me to see his name come up on my phone, and so I picked it up. And he's I should have known he was trying to get me, but he said, "Clay, how you doing, man?" And he was real serious. And I said, "I'm doing good." And he said, "I got a problem." This is the first time he's called me since the podcast came out. He said, "I got a problem." And I said, "Oh man, that's not good. What's going on?" And he said, "Man, ever since that podcast came out, I've been getting threats. I've already got 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, and I just was thinking, oh no, I've got this guy in trouble." And he let me think it for a minute, and then he was like, "Clay, you know I made a living lying, right?" And then he started laughing, and he had some guys in there that was he's an outfitter, and he had a bunch of guys hunting with him. But anyway,
RT's an outfitter now?
yeah, he is. He sure is. So
I wouldn't trust him. He lies.
Yep. Hey, y'all are all hog hunting buddies, and that's the reason I know Alvin is from hounds. And I've said this to Alvin before, but I'll say it again. Alvin, what little I know about hounds, a lot of it came from talking to Alvin. Now, we've never hound hunted together. Y'all have come up and squirrel hunted with me. I've never hog hunted with you, but that going back to our original conversation of when we met, I'd called you about trying to get a plott, and we talked on the phone for basically the first 2 years of Fern's life. And I was giving you the play-by-play of what she was doing, and you were really good at articulating the hound world.
Was the first time we met you when you come to the hog band?
Well, that's the first time I would have seen you guys.
Yeah, I mean,
but me and Alvin
yeah.
were buddies
I mean,
before that.
You coming with your daughter.
Yeah. Talk to me about these dogs.
I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say, yeah, I taught you everything you know. I mean, if that's what you want. I mean,
did.
if you any questions you asked me, if I felt like I had an answer, you know, I would try to do the best I could do to answer it, you know, other than that. I mean, a lot of stuff you were seeing, you know, might have been some of the first experiences you had. I mean, I know you couldn't hunt before, but some of the stuff you were explaining to me, you know, I had seen before, and I was like, well, I think this is actually what's going on. You know, don't be too concerned about it or whatever, you know. It's just kind of general conversation that I'd have with anybody or you'd have with anybody if you knew.
Yeah. And y'all do this is hog country, man. They're pretty much hogs all over this part of the world.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Bryan, tell me about your schedule as a farrier. Like how many horses are you shoeing every day?
Oh, I try to keep it, if I'm shoeing something all the way around, you know, in the 5 or 6 a day range. And then if I'm trimming, I'll try to cut it off around 20, you know, in the 15 to 20.
Okay.
And I keep most of my clients on a 6 weeks rotating schedule.
6 week rotating schedule.
Mm-hmm.
You got to have a tight schedule. I mean, you got to manage it to get people in there, and that seems like the farriers I've worked with, that's been a challenge for me to fit their schedule.
It can be tough, you know. You got to juggle. Life happens to everybody, so you got to juggle all of their schedules into yours. You know, I mean, they have families, things come up, doctor appointments, what have you. You know, so you kind of got to juggle all that, but it's doable.
Yeah. So I trim just the front feet of my mule. Back feet typically stay pretty tight. Is that okay that I don't ever trim her back feet?
Yeah, you normally won't have as much trouble with the back feet because a horse carries 60 to 70% of their weight on the front end.
Okay.
You know, so the majority of your problems come in the front. You know, I'm not saying you never need to trim the back, but it's generally the problems won't show up there as quickly.
Yeah. Kind of like the front tires on your truck. wearing out before the back tires.
Yeah, you buy new tires, you put them on the front and put the old ones on the back.
That's right.
Just buy 2 at a time.
That's right. That's the way y'all do it here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Whitetail Institute launched the food plot revolution in 1988 with a concentration on research and real-world testing of forage products specifically for whitetail deer. Whitetail Institute's research and development team of agronomy experts provide effective, personalized service. I've been using Imperial whitetail clover for a long time in a food plot back behind my house. In 2007, I killed the biggest buck of my life over an Imperial whitetail clover small quarter-acre food plot. Imperial whitetail clover is the only clover scientifically developed through years of selective breeding. Clover Extreme genetic stability provides extreme cold tolerance, disease, and drought tolerance. It really does. Clover is coated with Whitetail Institute's Rain Bond, a polymer coating added for enhanced seedling survivability. They have an exclusive offer for Bear Grease listeners, 15% off Imperial Clover when you use the code BEAR at whitetailinstitute.com. That's whitetailinstitute.com and use code BEAR for 15% off. Ready to win Mother's Day and cement your reputation as the best gift giver in the family? Give the moms in your life an Aura digital picture frame preloaded with decades of family photos. She'll love looking back on these memories and seeing what you're up to today. Even better, with unlimited storage and an easy-to-use app, you can keep updating mom's frame with new photos, so it's the gift that keeps on giving. And this is not a joke. Juju Newcomb has an Aura frame, and we share photos, and they're incredible. Also, my mother-in-law has one. We have them. They truly are really good, really high quality. The Aura frame is easy to set up. It takes just 2 minutes to set up a frame using the Aura app. It also adjusts the display depending on light levels in the room to maintain the true color of your photos. For real, the digital screen is amazing. Right now, Aura has a great deal for Mother's Day. Listeners can save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $30 off plus free shipping on their best-selling frame when you use code BEAR, B-E-A-R, BEAR. That's auraframes.com. Use code BEAR at checkout to save. Terms and conditions apply. Sport Dog is the most recognized brand in the hunting dog training industry. Born in 2003 in Knoxville, Tennessee, Sport Dog was forged by a passionate group of hunters and dog trainers who intimately understood the challenges of the field and the special connection between hunters and their dogs. The people at Sport Dog know that having a well-trained hunting dog is more than just having a reliable partner. It's a commitment to their safety and unlocking their full potential. The Sport Dog promise to customers is simple: gear the way you design it. Every product Sport Dog builds is meticulously designed and rigorously tested in the field, ensuring it withstands the toughest conditions you and your dog may encounter. Trust Sport Dog, where innovation meets passion, to elevate your hunting experience and strengthen the bond with your local companion. Using tracking equipment on my squirrel and coon dogs is extremely important to me to track my squirrel dogs and my one old coon dog that's not very good. Get 20% off your first purchase using the code BEARGREASE. Go to www.sportdog.com/beargrease to learn more.
Alvin, tell me, and Sherry, never in my life have I heard Sherry Grigg not talk in like a span as long as we've been at here. So, Sherry, I need to hear from you too. There's 2 things that you should never put on social media. 2 things. One of them is anything that has to do with beekeeping. Okay? If you have a beehive, keep it to yourself. All right?
They will steal it.
No. I mean, no, I don't know if they'll steal it. You will get more advice than you know what to do with. Passionate advice. Beekeepers are the most passionate people. They'll stalk you. They'll want to come to your house. They'll private message you from like every angle possible to try to get you, to tell you, like this thing you're doing. They're passionate people. And then the other group is horse people. So I had a couple of videos. Man, I had a farrier that was coming to my house. He came probably 4 times in just random times to put shoes on my mule when I was going out west. And he was a real nice guy, and he was just like, Clay, you ought to be able to do this yourself. He said, I'll teach you how to do it. And so he just showed me how to trim her feet and how to put shoes on her a couple of times, and I'd just watch him and ask questions. So ever since then, I've done it myself.
Okay.
And so I we'll put a little video up of me trimming Izzy's feet.
Right.
And it's like the sky fell. People going wild. I need to show you that video to
Right.
tell me if I'm making a train wreck. But
Well, she's still sound. She's still going.
Yeah.
So you're doing something right.
There's a little
there
button,
you go.
Clay, on social media. You can push block, and you don't have to listen to that crap.
You can push block. I hear you. So Sherry, tell me about your dogs. What kind of dogs do you have?
Plott hound and a corgi.
Plott hound and a corgi. Tell me about your dogs.
I love my dogs. They're awesome.
What's the bloodline like in your hog hunting with them? What? Tell me about them.
A lot of them are bloodline, aren't they? We off a cross he
Yeah,
made a long time ago.
We got some dog. I got a female from Jerry Gosnell several years ago. She would have been about, if she was alive, she'd have been about 10 probably. She's Jeep's mama, and Jeep is fixing to be 8. So, yeah, she'd have been about 10 probably if she's still alive. And pretty much everything I got, I mean, we can trace it back to her, you know. I mean,
Or Chili. Chili's Jeep's daddy.
Yeah, and we pretty much bred her offspring, you know, to outside males, you know, and then bred them back to our dogs. And some of them's family tree don't fork out too awful good, but it's kind of...
That's what you want, though.
Well, it's what I think works good.
Now, the name of your kennel, what's on the papers of all your plots is, how do you pronounce that?
Okanee.
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 That's the name of this community.
You're at Okanee right now.
When
Okanee?
it was Indian territory.
Yeah, when it was Indian territory, this was called Okanee. And when me and Sherry first moved here, which...
Moved here. I lived here anyway.
Several years ago, there used to be a little school that was down there, and they moved it over to Clarita. And it's right down here at the corner. If you go straight north right here at our place, the county road curves, and that corner right there was considered Okanee. And there was a school there, and it stood there for several years until a few years before me and Sherry got married, and they moved it over here to Clarita.
Yes,
It has since fell down and everything, but there's actually still a graveyard back in there. And
he moved here. I lived here since I was 12.
yeah, Sherry's
Really?
lived
So
here.
you live right in this area? Okay.
This was my mom and dad's place, and we lived next door until my mom and dad passed away.
When me and Sherry
Really?
got married, we bought the place that joins next to here.
Okay.
Yeah, and I've lived here with her, Sherry, for 20 years, but she's lived here, like I say, for 30, probably 35, 40.
Yeah, let's don't talk about that.
So, hey, Alvin, describe for me the plott hound world, like these guys like Roy Clark. Like a lot of people would have heard me talk about Roy Clark in East Tennessee that has Laurel Mountain plots.
Yeah.
And then, but you have the same thing going here with your kennels.
Not quite like Roy's
No,
got.
I mean,
little
just
different
what I'm
level we're
saying
talking
is
about here.
describe kind of like how groups with these line bred strains of dogs.
People want their stuff, and their stuff's the best, and they don't like to outsource it.
Well, it's not so much.
No, I mean, or
it's
insource
not
it,
so
or what do
much
you call
that they
it?
feel like
Yeah.
their stuff is the best. It's just that,
I do.
I mean, there's so many, when you're raising dogs, there's so many pups in a litter, you know, you obviously can't keep them all, and you want to know what they do and how they're performed to kind of keep kind of quality control on your product, you know, what you're producing, what the bloodline's producing, you know, and everything. And you kind of get a small circle of some guys you can trust, you know, and
Here's our circle.
and and you just kind of share your dogs, you know, and that's just kind of the way you do it. And it's on. I mean, it's just a blueprint of what Roy's done, you know. I'm just trying to do. I mean, he's as good as it gets, you know, as far as I'm concerned. He's a legend in the sport, you know, and breeding and hunting and everything. And you see how he's done it, you know. He said it more than once on your podcast. He couldn't do it by himself because it's just so many dogs, you know, and
Yeah.
takes so many people, you know, to keep it going. And he's got him a small, tight-knit group, and they're all working together, you know, and that's the only way you can do it. One guy can't feed 60 head, you know, and it literally takes nearly that many dogs to really get a good thing going, you know. I mean,
Yeah.
And Bryan Ringles and Jumpy's had some of my dogs, and then I've got some more friends around here, you know, that's had some, and that's just the way I've tried
We got
to
a
do
whole
it.
herd in Wisconsin.
Try to do
Yeah.
it. Yeah, I got
Yeah, you
Wisconsin.
you go up to Wisconsin and hunt
Yep.
in different parts of the country.
Yeah.
Bear and hog in
Yeah.
Wisconsin, different places.
They come
Yeah.
down every year too, our Wisconsin buddies.
Yeah.
You know,
Hog hunt.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay, why plot hounds? Sell me.
Oh, don't get us started. I
Oh,
wanted, I
yeah.
wanted, I wanted this dog a long time before he did, and he wouldn't get me one until he wanted one.
Oh, really? You wanted plot hounds first?
Mhm.
Really?
Yeah, she did.
Come on, tell me.
I didn't get.
And we were out there staying in West Virginia, and he knew.
Yeah, she wanted one when I was had cur dogs and crossbred dogs. You know, she always liked the plots, brindle color. You know, and I did too. You know, I mean,
Like ears.
Did you just like them because of the color? Sherry?
I just want a hound. I was raised. My brother coon hunted all my life,
yeah,
and
she likes hounds.
I like hounds, and I like it. I think they're pretty. And we was staying out there in West Virginia for a while, and I got to noticing more and more of them out there. Didn't have any idea about them. I just
Okay.
wanted one.
And truth is, I mean, that's pretty much how it worked out. I mean, I was out there, you know, and met some hound hunters. Didn't really hunt with anybody out there, but met some hound hunters around there, and plots were pretty popular out there, you know. And I got to see them around there, and got a few phone numbers to some people, you know, and she more or less talked me into it, you know. And first one I had was pretty good when it come from Eugene Walker. It was a Pocahontas plot.
Her name was Bear.
And
we called her Bear.
And I liked her and got some from Curtis Walker. You know, you went and met him, and then I just started trying different bloodlines, and then I got really intrigued with how each bloodline was like a breed all in itself. You know, I mean, just like you could take like Curtis Walker's dogs were nothing like Eugene's, and they were still plots. You know, they've just been bred different for years.
Steve Hurd's a fine. You can tell a Steve Hurd dog just by looking at it.
And it got interesting. It really got interesting to me. That's when I got into the kind of the breeding aspect of it. I kind of got interesting to me, but because how people could literally mold something to themselves. You know, I mean, it's like
to fit the style of their hunting.
Exactly. Yeah, you could take. You know, I mean, it just got interesting, and I just got consumed with it. You know, and it's just it's how it all worked out.
Well, you're the one who
Sherry started it.
Okay. Thank you, Sherry, because I was going to say Alvin is the one that really sold me on plots even after I had one, because I got a plot almost on accident. Steve Hurd and the dog, what was the dog's name?
Buster?
Gunner.
Gunner, yeah.
Bearpath Gunner.
Bearpath Gunner. First dog that we ever did a legendary bear hound article in for Bear Hunting Magazine, completely coincidentally, was about Steve Hurd's dog, Bearpath Gunner. I mean, just totally random. And I got to know Steve. My kids were the right age. They needed a dog. We'd gone years without having a dog, and they were just right for a dog. And so I ended up getting what I believe was a kind of a dog that didn't make the cut for what Steve wanted, to be honest with you. Because I told him, I said, I don't want a dog that hunts real hard. I want one that'll kind of be a pet. And anyway, I get this dog from him, bring it home, 6 months old. He tells me all this dog's going to do. And when it was 11 months old, it came in and did really good for me. So I called Alvin, was going to try to get another plot. And Alvin was like, man, you don't need, you pretty much told me you'd help me find a pup, but you didn't think your bloodline would coon hunt the way I wanted one. Is that about right?
That's exactly right. 100%.
So you didn't try to sell me a dog?
I had some.
We don't have dogs that are.
I would have given to if I thought they would have worked for me.
What don't make our cuts old? They don't make it.
Yeah.
Oh, if anything, he takes pride in his dogs and not putting off a lot of crap.
I mean,
yeah.
Dogs that are bred for hog, I mean, there's specific traits and skill sets you breed for hogs. You know, you don't. That's got nothing to do with. I mean, it's like I was saying a while ago, how these guys can shape these bloodlines to match their dogs. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of my dogs ain't going to tree worth a flip. You know, and I knew that. You know, but they got some tree bred into them, obviously they're plots. But
yeah,
I mean, I haven't bred for that for years, and hadn't bred for cold trailing coons and stuff. You know, and I knew the percentages would be so low it wasn't worth your time to mess with it. You know, so I didn't.
But you taught me about the cult of the plot hound, and I mean, really, you're the one who sold me on these guys like Roy Clark and Eugene Walker, and I mean, all these guys that were big plot men, and kind of how neat that was.
We've met a lot of interesting people.
Cult would be a strong word, but it's kind of. I mean,
I'll buy it.
What do you think, Brian's?
I call it
about right. Isn't
It's
it?
pretty close.
Pretty close.
I call it tight circles. You know, I mean, it's just.
No, I'll go with a cult. And now they would believe that they weren't any good for hog dogs because they bark on track, but they coming around.
Yeah, people thought that over the years.
Now, Jumpy, you probably don't like have you ever tried to plot for coon hunting?
I have. Yes.
Didn't work out, did it?
No.
I knew it didn't.
It was one of
They
ours.
got
It was one of
for me,
ours.
and it happened just like I thought it would happen for you. But
I'm a blue tick man.
That's why he don't hunt with us.
Yeah. What bloodline of blue ticks do you have?
Echo.
Echo, and that's a line that kind of came out of southeast Oklahoma.
Right. Come from Lane, Oklahoma.
Yeah. What are their strongest characteristics?
Cold nose, move track good tree dogs.
I think they're pretty too.
Accurate tree dogs. Most
Yeah.
of them are. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I started with blue ticks when I first started coon hunting, but anyway, I've joined the cult now, so I gotta have plotts. I had a guy that I coon hunted a little bit with last year. He really wanted to go with me. He said, and when I got down to it, he said, "Clay, I've never seen a plot tree of coon. I've always wanted to." He hunted with a lot. He hunted with a lot of.
I was amazed that people didn't know what one was. We went when I had a signed bull. They were puppies. We took them to a lot of hog bands, and people, what are them plotts? They never heard of them. They heard of them after that little series of summer things though, because they went and won a lot of stuff.
They did good, huh?
They did, and then the next year I went in there, kind of a big head, thinking I was gonna win everything, and they were grown dogs in, and they went and caught like a bulldog. It was over.
Yeah.
Straight up, never made a sound, just walked in there and caught. So that was the end of their baying days.
Yeah. Do you hunt a lot with Alvin?
I used to.
Don't anymore?
Well, my knees hurt.
Okay. Okay.
So
Now you got plots too, Brian.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. How many dogs you got?
Oh, I'll be feeding 10 or 12 right now, probably.
10 or 12. Some
Yeah.
coon dogs too, though. Hog
Yes.
dogs, coon dogs.
Right.
Yeah.
he's got a plethora of
Yeah.
color out there.
I've got my dog yard right now looks like I rated the pound, pretty much.
Yeah. I hear you. Dave, you got any dogs?
I got one dog. Yeah.
What kind?
She's an American Classic.
What does that even mean?
She's a mutt. Yeah. Yeah.
I thought he was gonna say a sit you or something like that, and I was gonna give you a hard time.
I was about. I knew he was gonna say like something little. Okay, so you do have a dog.
I do. Yeah.
Where's
Yep.
the dog go when you go on these trips, man?
Oh, she stays with a friend in Missoula.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay. Hey, did y'all know? Dave reminded me of this today, and he told me not to bring it up. Dave's from New York. Did y'all know that?
You're a Yankee.
Upstate New York.
Yeah, definitely.
We're
He's
Yankee.
not half
Whereabouts?
bad from
Elmira?
being from upstate New York, is he?
No.
that's bottom in it.
Yeah, that's downstate. Or
How'd
Dave,
you end up in
killed,
Montana?
speaking of stuff they do up north that we don't get to do down here, Dave killed an elk last week.
Hey, I did do that.
You did kill an elk
Yes,
here in
I did.
Oklahoma.
This county.
Dave, why don't you go sit in the truck? Sherry's got a story to tell us. Yeah, Sherry, you killed an elk in Oklahoma. We'll come back to you, Dave, maybe, if we have time.
that's fine.
When did you kill an elk?
It was like their third season, wasn't it? Second or
It's probably
third
about
season.
5 years ago, wasn't it? Something like that.
Yeah,
Or six.
they started getting an established herd in certain little pockets of southeastern Oklahoma, and I guess it was. I mean, I quote me on any of this stuff, but it's 7 or 8, 10 years ago they started having a season, and we had the property we hunt, which is the property you're hunting now. And you've seen pictures of them. They come through this year on some cameras, but
Yeah.
there was some in there, and we started entertaining the idea of trying to kill one,
Oh,
and
yeah, and that's they're
and it
they're
So there's a quota.
Yeah.
Where did they come from? Where did they turn them
high
out?
fence ranch. Right.
yeah, it was
Oh, literally, they got loose from a ranch.
Yep.
Wow, but now they're regulated by the state.
Yeah. The whole
Wow.
state is cut in 4 quarters.
Only in Oklahoma.
Yeah. So then, like out west, there's no quota. In
And
some
so
of the
you
places.
killed a cow elk out there in the quota.
That was the last tag. Yeah.
Yeah, she was the
Yeah.
last one.
Took
We
the
had
quota.
you had to call every morning, to make sure the quota's filled. And we had some that was coming around some of our stand sites and on the camera, and she just kept playing cat and mouse with them, And I said, they're going to fill the quota before you get to kill one, And she called that evening and she said, it's still open. I'm going hunting, which me and Reese went hunting too. We were actually youth hunting. Me and my daughter. It was the first day of youth season, and my daughter had actually killed a doe. And then we'd shot the doe, and then we recovered the doe. And a few minutes, my phone started ringing, And when we're hunting, getting a text message is not nothing unusual. But when you start getting phone calls that's good shooting light at the end of the day, something's going on, And I got a cow, and everything. I'm like, where'd you hit her, and everything. And she tells me all my stuff, and she said, I'm gonna get down and look for blood. So here we are, tending to a doe, and everything. So I'll go walk to the truck, get the truck, drive down there where the doe's at. By the time I get down there, Sherry's found the cow, And she tells me, she's like, it's such and such, and tells me how to drive right to where she's at. And she's like, how are we going to get out here? I said, I remember she gives me a hard time about this. And I've been around, I'm not an out west guy, but I have been elk hunting out there and seen a cow before. And I mean, me and a couple guys loaded it in the back of a truck. So I was like, man, I can get it up in there, She's like, what? I'm like, hey, I can get it up back of this truck from the drive right there close to it, So I'm driving around talking on the phone, and still thinking I can get this elk in the truck, and I was dead wrong, and she's giving me a hard time about it. I had to, and
How much do you think it weighed?
man, I don't know.
He couldn't turn it over by
I couldn't
himself.
flip it over.
And he's a big
It was
man.
the lead cow. It was the biggest cow in the group.
Yeah, I don't
there
shoot
was
little stuff.
there was an immature bull in there, and she was going to shoot either the bull or whatever. It was just kind of whatever. It wasn't once in a lifetime deal. Man, I never killed no
No,
one.
I was after the big one.
And she was after whatever, But she got a chance to shoot that big cow, and it was the biggest cow in the group. I don't know, 500, 600. I don't know. I mean, I really don't know. Big. Too big for me to put in the back of a truck.
Too big.
Yeah,
Yep.
I just ruined my daughter's hunt. She said, you just had to up me.
Well, Dave, you killed a little scrawny bull up in Montana last
His
week.
was a little more
Tell us
impressive. I
about
saw
that.
pictures
Oh yeah,
in the snow.
it's my first bull, so I was pretty stoked.
Yeah, so you moved from New York to Montana like 5 or 6 years ago?
Almost 8 now.
8 years
yeah.
ago.
Yeah, I'm pre-COVID and pre-Yellowstone, so I feel like I'm in the clear.
There you go. Yeah, okay. So
Yeah.
so people that move there after COVID is like a certain type of people?
Yeah,
That you don't wanna be associated
well,
with?
the demographic's been changing. Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
yeah, for
Gotcha.
sure. So, but yeah, killed a bull last week. My first bull. Been chasing him with a bow for quite a few years and a rifle, but spent like 20 days in archery this season. Missed one, and then third day with a rifle. Got lucky.
How big was the rack?
He was a 6x6. Yeah, he's
That-
not a giant, but a good. I feel like a good
I was impressed by him.
representation of.
I
Did
saw
you see
it.
the picture
Yeah, I
of it,
did.
Sherry?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were how far from the truck when you killed it?
I was pretty lucky that I was only like 2.25 miles because there were some points in archery
2.25
season.
miles.
Yeah.
There were
then
some
tell us
points in
how you got
archery
it out.
season I was pretty far out. So I shot it like 2:00, and then that evening I quartered it up. I was by myself, quartered it up, took out a front quarter and all the loose meat. And then the next day I went in with a sled. I was a little far away from home, so trying to call friends to come help me pack out wasn't
Didn't
really working out. So the next morning I bought a sled, hiked in, put the other 3/4 on a sled, and dragged it out.
Yeah.
Wasn't too bad.
You need to get you one of them pack llamas. I seen that.
Yeah, that's what he needs.
I need to get a mule. I need to talk to Jumpy about buying one of them mules.
Oh man.
Yeah, I got about 10 of them over there.
Yeah, we didn't say that. Jumpy's a mule man too.
Right.
Hey, we were going to talk about our squirrel hunt. You and Alvin,
Yeah.
I wasn't invited.
Bryan Ringles and Alvin came up and squirrel hunted with me in February. We were just going to hunt pretty much one day, right? And y'all brought your horses, and I had the mule, and we had a uneventful squirrel hunt in terms of killing squirrels. But we went to a big property, and I had my 2 Feists, and they hunted out in front of us while we rode down some just basically old roads. And
You killed your eye.
yeah, that was that's all I can remember is that I was riding to a tree, and the dogs were treed,
Mm-hmm.
and I took a stick in the eye, which I mean isn't terribly uncommon. I just kind of thought I could just blink it out, and man, it just kept getting. It probably happened at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, I had already shot the only squirrel to be shot.
Yep.
And what happened, actually, I'll get this story for all the
Okay.
listeners,
Okay.
What actually happened was the squirrels were starting to move pretty good, and we were starting to get a lot more trees, and Clay knew I was fixing to put on this squirrel shooting exhibition.
I think that's what happened.
Yeah,
Brian.
it was
I don't know.
clearly-
I don't know if I witnessed it that way for sure or not, but
Yeah.
maybe I was missing something.
It was something like that. It was something like that.
So you poked yourself in the eye.
Where you going, Dave?
My chair just had a blowout.
Oh wow,
Uh-oh.
Dave lost a chair.
This is what happens when you've been sitting
know
in a
too.
tree stand for a couple days.
Man,
Well,
that's my new rocking chair my friend got me.
we gotta, yeah. Just go over there and get that chair.
I like that when that kind of stuff happens to skinny people.
Makes you feel good.
No,
All
one's,
right,
no one's immune.
Dave's got a new chair. No, so I was riding to the squirrel tree, took a stick in the eye. Didn't think. I mean, it hurt right away, but I probably a few minutes later, I was like, man, I took a stick in the eye. I can't really see out of this eye. And man, rather than getting better, it just kept getting worse.
Because you was rubbing it.
Well, probably. 2 hours later, I couldn't hardly see out of either eye. and it was like probably 1 o'clock, and these guys had driven hours to come up here to hunt for one day, and I couldn't see. Alvin had to drive my truck, drive me to the eye doctor. Well, I don't even, did you take me straight to the?
No, I took you home, and Misty had came to get you.
That's right.
Yeah.
And anyway, I went to the eye doctor, and I had scraped 5 layers off my cornea, which sounds worse than it is. They put a medicated contact lens over your eye, and basically that's all they do, and it heals. But anyway, that's all I can think about.
It's
What
a
y'all
wonder
remember
you
about
didn't
that?
lose your eye after the fabrication of the eye patch that we did out there in the woods for
What
you.
did we do? I forgot.
Cut a piece of a saddle blanket off or something. I can't remember, and you tied it around your head with
Yeah,
a
it
piece
looked
of hay
like-
string or something.
Yeah, it was
The pirate.
It was pretty
impressive.
primitive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember it. The
It got
light
you out
was
of there.
killing it.
Yeah.
No, I told Alvin this the other day. So I'm relatively new to the equine world. I mean, I was an adult when I started riding quite a bit. And we were riding. So when I go with people that have been around, have been riding and doing stuff their whole lives, I'm paying attention, trying to learn something. When we were riding, we came to a real steep rocky bluff, and I didn't blame Alvin a bit. He stepped off as we rode through some pretty rough stuff, and when we came to this spot, it was brushy and probably a 3.5 foot drop of slick
Yeah,
rock.
It was slanted real bad too. It was a potential sliding down area.
Yeah. And man, I mean, I think any horse guy, mule guy would pride himself on not getting off. And so I would be in that category. But when I saw you get off, I went and looked it over and was like, you know what? I think I'll get off too, which is pretty rare. It's a pretty rough little spot. So me and you just led your horse, my mule, down this little deal. And
He
Brian's
kayakked off it,
coming
didn't he?
up. Brian's coming up behind us on his Mustang.
Yeah.
And I just know he's about to get off. And he doesn't get off, and he does the man from Snowy River deal off of this thing and leans back, and his back was on the butt of that horse. And I was impressed. I was thoroughly impressed with that you didn't get off your horse.
That was probably just pure D laziness on my part.
You just didn't want to get off. Tell me about your horse. What kind of horse you got?
He's a Mustang out of a range in Nevada is where he come out of. What
So
I've
he
got
was
two.
born a wild horse.
Is that the
Yeah.
one you had out here?
The paperwork, no.
Okay.
I've got 2 of them, but the paperwork on him says he was a 4-year-old when they gathered him off the range, and I've been using him since he was about 10. I bought him already broke from some more guys that had actually been roping calves on him and using him on the ranch, but he's made a nice hunting horse, and he's actually on his way back from New Mexico elk season right now on the second gun season. Some boys borrowed him and took him out there.
Really?
Yep.
What is there legitimate stuff about what a Mustang would be better at than just a regular horse that had been bred and raised in captivity?
I think so.
Well, it's just got to do with the same as about you was talking about line breeding the dogs and stuff like that. I mean, they're just the hybrid vigor is there, and the survival of the fittest has been there from natural selection for so long. Is what makes them their
Tough.
gene pool so much different. From the domestic horse that we raise
I see.
here. Has been so. The
So
breed,
they're actually selecting for characteristics of survival that work for a horse on the range.
naturally that happened.
Yeah.
Yes, to where we've selected for different performance aspects in the quarter horse world or whatever the other
Yeah.
domestic horse might be. So that's the difference. They're just naturally selected for brains, toughness. They don't have feet problems. They don't have teeth problems.
I think
Any
you
of
can
that
beat them on being tough.
that stuff weeded itself out.
Yeah.
You can fix a colt's feet with the shoes, but they're born that way. If they don't have right feet, they die.
Right. I see what you're saying. Now, that brings up a good question, and we're going to get to talking about RT soon enough, okay? People ask me this, and I don't have a good answer. I like having good answers when people ask me stuff. Today, most modern horses have to be shod or they'll go lame. I mean, for the most part, or is that its true statement?
Well, depending on their job, that can be a true statement, yes. There's a couple of reasons. This is going to be very broad, but there's a couple of reasons to shoe a horse, and it's going to be either for protection or some type of podiatry that they need to overcome a genetic issue.
Okay.
And so, yes, most performance horses today have to be shod in some way or another because they kind of let that part of the selection and the breeding be on the back burner for so long.
So that's why a wild horse wouldn't have to have had shoes 1,000 years ago, was because he was selected for having good feet.
Well, yes, that's true, unless they have some type of job that they're wearing off more than they can grow back. Even I read a book just the other day that said that there was some of the Apache Indians even would cut a piece of skin off of the hip of their horse whenever they was riding one and he was about to give up on them, and put that over their foot, So people
Cut it
have been
off of the horse?
Yeah, actually
Wow.
off the same horse they were riding, but they didn't need to be shod for purposes like balance and podiatry and that kind of thing where you was correcting genetic issues. They just had to be shod because you were wearing more foot off than they could grow back.
Yeah.
In rough, rocky type terrain, so
That makes sense.
it depends on their job.
No, I have a good
if
answer.
a cutting horse stud can get down on his belly and cut a cow like no other and he's got a crooked foot, he's still getting bred. And he's still passing them genetics on down the line.
I see what
Exactly.
you're saying. So if there's
Yeah.
one that's real good at this other stuff,
Yeah.
feet aren't that big a deal. You can fix the feet with a farrier,
Yeah.
But not in the wild.
but not in the wild.
Right.
Yeah. That's why me and Jumpy ride mules.
That's right.
Right, Jumpy?
Right.
Oh, Jumpy's a mule man. I heard he has one that loves him, is what your wife told me earlier.
Yeah. Oh, Mad Ann Bailey.
Yeah, that's what she called it.
Yeah.
All right. R.T. Stewart, secret agent man. What'd you think, Alvin? What stood out to you?
When I first started listening to it, the part about leading double lives, and kind of messing with his mind,
Yeah.
that was something I never would have thought of. It's kind of like, I never would have thought of that,
Yeah.
And that really was probably about as interesting. I mean, that was probably the most interesting. Don't get
Yeah.
me wrong. I mean, I'm looking forward to episode 2 where he talks about some of the different, jobs he was on,
Yeah.
and what some of the things were that were happening that they put a stop to and stuff like that. But from the first one, that was pretty much what was kind of something I never would have thought of. Kind of come across
Yeah.
pretty interesting.
Yeah.
I want to know how his wife, he was married, right?
He was.
How she took it. Because you can't tell me if he's leading a double life, he wasn't leading a hanging out with buddies, partying, drinking. That
Well, RT is very open about this stuff. It's in his book, so I feel like I can say this. And he even said it on the podcast. It just didn't make the cut, but like he lost his wife. Well,
Okay.
He lost his marriage.
Yeah.
During that time, and he's real open about it, about how he it did affect his marriage.
And
Big time.
I felt sorry for him when he said, I didn't go to graduation and stuff. He didn't get paid
Yeah.
enough for that.
Yeah.
And I already say, he regretted he wouldn't do that. He, wouldn't do it again.
Did it strike y'all as, and this is an honest question to any of you, did it strike y'all as unique that he was as open about that stuff as he was? I mean, about like making mistakes? Because, I mean, it seems to me like people,
Would hide that.
well, or just find a way to justify it or blame it on someone else. I mean, it's like we have all these mechanisms to deal with kind of the way we've maybe messed stuff up. And he was just like, yeah, I pretty much
Is he
messed
not
it up.
worried about, because he wrecked people's lives. And I mean, I guess he's messing with hinds, that's different. But you
They
mess with a
wreck their
hillbilly
own
like
lives.
that, they still could come get you 20 years later. They're not
Yeah.
going to forget. I just
Yeah.
wondered if he, that in the back of his mind.
Yeah, if he was ever worried about retaliation from people.
Some people are just more open than other people. I mean, some people will talk about things like it's nothing, and some people want.
Tell us about all your failings, Alvin.
Yeah, I mean,
He's perfect. He's perfect. He has
perfect.
none. He has
but
none.
also too, I just had this thought when you were saying that. I mean, this guy lived a life for so many years. It may be a breath of fresh air for him to tell you everything you want to know about himself.
Right. Yeah.
Could be. I mean,
Would you do it, Jumpy?
Ask that again.
Would you do that? Go undercover and leave your daughter,
No,
your grandkids?
I wouldn't have made a good undercover.
Yep.
Do y'all work with any undercover agents?
Yes,
Drug
Yes.
people.
drug people. Yes.
So how would that work with your? I mean, can you talk about that? mean-
Probably not a whole lot, but when we have something going on, we'll call some of them guys and have them come in and try to make some buys or something
Yeah.
for us.
Yeah.
Kind of
Yeah.
works along the same lines with what RT was doing.
Yeah. What did you think, Jumpy? Just overall.
Well, I tell you, a whole lot of things he talked about I can relate to, and I was really intrigued with the psychology part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And well, first off, he's got a pen full of blue ticks, and I got a pen full of blue ticks.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was 35 when he started law enforcement. I was 35 when I started.
Yeah.
So, but the stress, it's unbelievable what kind of stress a police officer goes through.
Mm-hmm.
And I could just only imagine what he stressed, this constant stress like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought it was so fascinating when that psychologist, Dr. Matthew Sharps, was talking about how humans were designed to handle acute stress, which is acute means short-term stress, because of our hunter-gatherer roots, but we don't have any mechanism
For
to
long term.
deal with chronic stress. I love that guy, man. When we contacted him, he's from California State University, I think, in Fresno, and I was very happy that he was pumped that we were a hunting related podcast. Like I wasn't so sure if he knew what he's getting into, but he was like, "Oh yeah, he's studied quite a bit about." He had a lot of knowledge, but I thought that was a insightful thing. I would have never thought about that. Even the way we're wired is built for, kind of comes back from our background. What anything else stand out to you, Jumpy?
Yes, he got close to some of those guys, and I relate the same way with some of our inmates that we have, people that we arrest. Of course, I was raised here in Cole County.
It's a small county.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I know most of the people that we're putting in jail,
Yeah.
and I have work crew, and a lot of times I'll get the guys out and they'll walk down the highway picking up trash or mow a cemetery. Well, you get kind of, in about 90% of the guys, once they get in jail and get sobered up, they're pretty good people, pretty decent people.
Mm.
You kind of get a relationship with them, kind of become friends,
Yeah.
and it's easy to get close to them,
Yeah.
to them guys like that.
Yeah.
And but I just make it clear with them. Some of the ones we put in jail, they're deer hunters, they're coon hunters, hog hunters, and some of them's just bad people. They're never
Yeah.
going to get any better. But when they get out, the ones we get close to, they get out and they know they get out there and get to messing up again. That they're not going to get no break or going right back to jail.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So you're saying the relationship maybe helps them stay straight in the future?
not very many.
No.
No, they all when they go to jail get straight. So we're not doing this again. We're not coming back. Most of them's back within a few months.
Fall right back in the same crowd.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
If they don't change the company they run with and don't get a job to keep their hands busy, stay out of trouble, they end up right back in jail. Most
Yeah.
of them do. Not all of them, but most of them do.
Yeah.
They end up right back in jail. Most
Yeah.
of them do. Not all of them, but most of them do.
Yeah.
Whitetail Institute launched the food plot revolution in 1988 with a concentration on research, and real-world testing of forage products specifically for white-tailed deer. Whitetail Institute's research and development team of agronomy experts provide effective, personalized service. I've been using Imperial whitetail clover for a long time in a food plot back behind my house. In 2007, I killed the biggest buck of my life over an Imperial whitetail clover small quarter-acre food plot. Imperial whitetail clover is the only clover scientifically developed through years of selective breeding. Clover Extreme genetic stability provides extreme cold tolerance, disease, and drought tolerance. It really does. Clover is coated with Whitetail Institute's Rain Bond, a polymer coating added for enhanced seedling survivability. They have an exclusive offer for Bear Grease listeners, 15% off Imperial Clover when you use the code BEAR at whitetailinstitute.com. That's whitetailinstitute.com and use code BEAR for 15% off. Ready to win Mother's Day and cement your reputation as the best gift giver in the family? Give the moms in your life an Aura digital picture frame preloaded with decades of family photos. She'll love looking back on these memories and seeing what you're up to today. Even better, with unlimited storage and an easy-to-use app, you can keep updating mom's frame with new photos, so it's the gift that keeps on giving. And this is not a joke. Juju Newcomb has an Aura frame, and we share photos, and they're incredible. Also, my mother-in-law has one. We have them. They truly are really good, really high quality. The Aura frame is easy to set up. It takes just 2 minutes to set up a frame using the Aura app. It also adjusts the display depending on light levels in the room to maintain the true color of your photos. For real, the digital screen is amazing. Right now, Aura has a great deal for Mother's Day. Listeners can save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $30 off plus free shipping on their best-selling frame when you use code BEAR, B-E-A-R, BEAR. That's auraframes.com. Use code BEAR at checkout to save. Terms and conditions apply. Sport Dog is the most recognized brand in the hunting dog training industry. Born in 2003 in Knoxville, Tennessee, Sport Dog was forged by a passionate group of hunters and dog trainers who intimately understood the challenges of the field and the special connection between hunters and their dogs. The people at Sport Dog know that having a well-trained hunting dog is more than just having a reliable partner. It's a commitment to their safety and unlocking their full potential. The Sport Dog promise to customers is simple: gear the way you design it. Every product Sport Dog builds is meticulously designed and rigorously tested in the field, ensuring it withstands the toughest conditions you and your dog may encounter. Trust Sport Dog, where innovation meets passion, to elevate your hunting experience and strengthen the bond with your local companion. Using tracking equipment on my squirrel and coon dogs is extremely important to me to track my squirrel dogs and my one old coon dog that's not very good. Get 20% off your first purchase using the code BEARGREASE. Go to www.sportdog.com/beargrease to learn more.
Would you think that a guy like RT, like his life would have really been in danger with wildlife criminals like he was dealing with?
No, not around here. He wouldn't.
Really?
I don't know how the laws are in Ohio, but in Oklahoma, the wildlife laws are all misdemeanors. And how are they in Ohio?
I don't know.
Because we have the Lacey Act here. Of course, that's if you take a illegal game across the state line.
Yeah.
That's a felony. But most, just like somebody going out here poaching deer, that's a misdemeanor, a fine. They rarely put somebody in jail. They do, but it's not real common.
Really?
Can you lose your hunting license?
Yeah, you can lose your hunting license over.
See, now I wouldn't want to take a chance on that.
You had a lifetime hunting license, I think you could lose that.
I got a lifetime.
I think definitely there was some felonies given out to some of the guys that he was after.
You don't almost have to be to justify the time and money spent putting into it.
I'll go ahead and do a spoiler for the next episode. He tells a story where he's with these guys, and basically his undercover world means that he he cannot. He can break the law. Like he could actually go shoot a turkey if he felt like it was in the name of keeping his cover and was going to help bust these guys. Like so these undercover guys have some liberty to do the work that they need to do. And in all his work, he only killed one illegal animal, which I thought was pretty incredible because he was on hundreds of illegal deer and turkey kills.
It sounded like an awesome job. Party, run around and shoot crap. I wouldn't want to come home either.
Sherry, you just exposed your deep motivations. No, but he said the one thing that he couldn't do in his undercover position was knowingly commit a felony. And one time he was with these guys and he's driving the poach coach and they go into a gas station and rob it and come back. He's out there pumping gas and has no knowledge of it. And it's a total spoiler. It's just a cool story hearing him tell it, but basically they come back out and they're like, let's go. And he's like, what happened? What's going on? And they had robbed the store. And he turned on his video cameras so that the video would pick up that he didn't know about it. So he was like, man, I had no idea you guys were going to do that. And they were like, well, it just happened. He wanted it because he would have gotten in trouble. And turns out there's a lot of liability with being an undercover agent. He was constantly worried about himself getting in trouble.
Right.
But the other thing that happened, spoiler alert too, is that he's with these guys one night and they're plotting to kill a guy that had turned them into the game warden. Like literally he is overhearing a conversation.
So
well, no. It wasn't even that straightforward. He had somehow had his surveillance equipment on, and he overheard the guys in the poach coach talking about how they were going to kill such and such, like had a plan.
But he didn't hear it in person.
He didn't hear it in person. He goes back and listens to the tape, hears them plotting this murder. But in Ohio, for a conversation to be recorded, at least one person in the conversation has to be aware of what's happening.
Does he count as that?
No,
it wasn't
so he
submissible.
calls his boss and he says, hey, we got a sticky situation. These guys are going to kill this guy. And I know this, but I know this illegally. And so what do we do? And basically the boss was like, we just got to ride it out. And anyway, they ended up not killing the guy. But just constantly finding himself in
For a turkey?
pretty wild situations. Yeah. And I mean, they were rough folks, man. Rough folks.
I thought I said it early on in the podcast, and it was stuck with me. And I was like, man, he said that, and correct me if I heard it wrong, but he said that every person he was investigating at some point in time during the course of the mission or whatever, they had questioned him about, are you undercover?
Yeah.
Every one of them. And I thought, I mean, first thing I thought was, I mean, if I think you're undercover, you saying no, I'm not is not good enough for me.
Yeah.
I don't understand
I think
why.
that's why it took 11 months and him doing shady crap to quit saying
I
crap.
guess maybe so. I don't know. I thought, I mean, I can't believe no one figured out. I mean, I guess he's good at what he did, you know?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you think about it, every single situation, he was the new guy. I mean, just because they didn't know him from childhood. I mean, like literally, he was the new guy. And in every situation, he was deep in with these guys and was going out and poaching with them big time. So, I mean, I think sometimes it was joking. It would just be like, man, I bet RT's a game warden. Dave, what'd you think, man? You said you had some serious thoughts.
Well, I have some thoughts. Yeah, I don't know. It seemed to, I don't know to the extent of what he was catching people doing, but I mean, like you said, he got close to some of these guys and he knew he was about to ruin their lives. And I don't know, it just seems like going undercover like that for that long, it seems really deceitful. And I imagine most of these situations, these guys were doing crimes far beyond just like shooting some
You'd have to
turkeys and
to go in there and do that.
Yeah.
That'd be more than that.
and deer, but yeah, it just seemed a little
It seemed over intrusive, is what you're saying.
Yeah, a little icky almost.
Seems cruel
for,
almost to go in there and do that.
for wildlife violations. You
I
know,
hear you.
they're not. I mean, they're not shooting the last rhino or
Yeah.
you know, or
Let me say this:
Selling drugs.
if you read the book, which the book is called "Poachers Were My Prey," and it's a very well written book. Chip Gross, the guy that was on there, he actually wrote the book, and the book is very well written. It's like well done, and all of these, anything RT was called on was pretty major. I mean, for instance, and I won't talk about this. RT doesn't talk about this, but one of the chapters was about poachers from West Virginia that were literally carting for years enormous amounts of deer, turkey, squirrels, any kind of meat that they could get, taking it to Cincinnati, Ohio to sell to restaurants.
really,
And, yeah.
Oh, that's not legal.
yeah. Normally, you got to
Oh.
pay extra for that kind
And
of
so
thing.
RT goes there and he's like, these guys are selling to these people. And they, he infiltrates and like, it's like this super underground thing. And basically they were putting it in stir fry for real. The whole chapter about it. Like, that's pretty serious,
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then the other guys, like when he got the guy he talks about that he got so close to, those guys he worked that case for like 17 months. RT himself was on with one guy was on. He couldn't even remember how many turkeys before season that guy poached. He said, probably around, he said between 40 and 60.
What'd they do with them?
I don't know. I mean, that's a lot of turkeys in one season for one guy.
Because
a
I
lot
can.
of turkeys.
I mean, that's pretty serious stuff. So that's why they're going to that extent. But, they're not trying to catch a guy out here that's,
Trying to feed his
shooting over
family.
his limit of squirrels. you
Yeah.
know.
yeah.
I guess it's trying to get the bigger guy and probably take down more people, but I don't understand how you can go along with 40 to 60 turkey kills.
Right.
At some point in time, this is what we're trying to stop.
Well, and he talks about that, and all that stuff is like very much on their minds. And what they were doing was, they had, by the time he was going after one guy, and by the time he was done, they had 26 people that were deeply involved in this that he had evidence on. And so, like, maybe they've got this guy, but they're still working on this guy, and the sting has to come down at one time. So they say, hey, man, we need 2 more months. And during that 2-month time, he's got to maintain his cover and do his stuff. And he actually said that. He said there came a point when we just had to say, okay, enough is enough. For the people of Ohio, we got to bring this down.
So if you read his book, he's going to explain all this.
He explains it all.
Because I'm going to have to read it because I just can't wrap my mind around all that for. I just
It's a
can't
cost
put people
reward deal.
poaching.
It's a cost
that much.
reward
I
deal
can't.
for me.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty wild how
When they
much
started
they're poaching.
talking about buying new vehicles and renting houses for
That's a
years
lot of
at
money.
a time, and I started thinking, I started trying to imagine in my head actual, like a analytical sheet, that showed how much money they spent and all the actual convictions they got, and started trying to just imagine it's probably going to break down to millions of dollars, for, obviously several convictions, but
Yeah.
kind of, natural resources got to be protected, but at some point in time, you can't spend billions and millions of taxpayers' dollars, but like you say, there's some pretty big cases,
Yeah,
How does that work on him?
I wonder how that money could have been spent towards like
Yeah, I
habitat
started thinking about how many of these
restoration
guys we got to fire to buy a bunch of public land.
Yeah. Well, those are legitimate questions. I think, first of all, back in the 90s, I think they were on such shoestring budgets. The actual money that they spent on these things was relatively small, But I think wildlife enforcement over the years it's almost like what do they say? There's some if people know that that's going on and that they're seeing people go to jail and get felonies for stuff, it's like having an unhunted populations of grizzlies in the West. They get super aggressive because there's no penalty for doing bad. When there's a penalty for doing bad, it kind of filters through the whole system. That's the way I think about Undercover. Is that?
That's pretty close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just because, if all I have to do is dodge a guy in a uniform, maybe that's, there's ways to do that.
It's a game.
Even Russ Arthur, the Forest Service agent who interviewed Louisdale worked on Louisdale and Charlie Edwards, the first thing he said to me was, he said, Clay, how hard is it for a single poacher to evade one man that has to cover 7 counties? Basically he was like, it's not hard to get away with breaking the law. And so anyway, the Undercover thing though kind of filters out, and it's like, holy smokes, we better be watching ourselves.
Yeah.
How bad did that bother him, knowing he was putting these men in jail for stuff that he was doing right along with them?
Well, I think that's just part of the job. It's kind of like, does a bull rider get upset when they get hurt? It's like, well, they ride bulls.
Yeah.
I think that's just part of the deal,
it would bother me that you're no better than them to a sense, because you're going along with it.
Well, and that's kind of what I built up in the thing, is that, like, it's an odd philosophical and ethical position to go and break the law in the name of the good guys. Yeah.
Yeah. This undercover agent deal being a deterrent, like you're just explaining, that makes great sense. But I had a thought on that right there. It's originally it basically blows your cover. You know what I'm saying? Once
you make a bust,
once a big bust happens in southeast Ohio, you're not infiltrating no more poaching rings in that area for a long, long time. It's just big news. Everyone knows the Undercover, and it comes out in the news stories. Wonder how many years they had involved. Well, and there's poaching rings that probably just helped them. Which you got one of them. I guess
if you read the book, and there's no way that an hour podcast is going to give you all the details of this book. Here's the way it would go down: is a lot of times they wouldn't. Well, this doesn't directly answer your question. I see what you're saying. But as far as RT goes, he was able to work in the same general kind of southeast Ohio for his whole career, because sometimes they didn't even know who the Undercover guy was.
Yeah, it was before social media and stuff.
I don't think you can get by with that now, because you can reverse image search and find anything.
Yeah, there would be.
If you wanted to,
every platform of social media available that people's looking at 24 hours a day, 7 days a week nowadays, it'd be blowed all over it, and it would be.
Well,
if someone didn't read a newspaper back then, never
is that they might not even know. They would just be like, "You remember that Bob Thomas guy? He was my neighbor for 2 years, and then he moved."
So
back
did he come out when
not always
at the trial?
Not always.
What I'm saying is they don't necessarily have to know who it is. They just have to know that we got to be careful.
Yeah,
they're using undercover agents now, and therefore no one's
safe.
Even if they're not infiltrating that group of people, because they're aware now.
The other thing that I learned in this is that they're also what they call, I think they call it witting informants. Does that phrase make sense, Jumpy? Where if you were a bad poacher and there was somebody close to you that got arrested, they could come to him and make a plea deal with him if they'll help catch this guy. So you could have a witting informant, which means an informant that is working along with the undercovers. So it could be your best friend.
Yeah.
But it's not a good life when everybody finds out about it, though.
No, it's not.
It's a dangerous one.
Yeah. There's a lot of, and he goes through the law, like in the book, kind of like how stuff legally works. And it's pretty interesting. But
my question is, could RT catch Louisdale?
I don't think so.
Good question.
I don't think so.
Man.
He's like the ghost coon. You ain't catching him.
Did you listen to the
Mhm,
Outlaw
I did.
ones?
Yeah, we listened to it together.
Yeah.
I'm going to say when Louisdale said, "Hey, are you a private investigator?" and he said, "No," I'm going to say Louisdale would have followed up. He would have done some more
He'd
research.
have got a second
Man,
opinion.
So
Yeah.
y'all heard it on there when RT, like elephant in the room, when I said I've heard of undercover agents that like live in the area and drive a couple hours and just kind of have, and he said, "Oh, that's playing undercover. That's playing."
Right.
Like, he didn't know that I had interviewed a guy, and it was kind of, I can't throw Russ under the bus. That was just what they had available. That's just the way they had to do it. They didn't have a big budget. He wasn't a trained
more
agent.
respectful for their tax dollars, wouldn't they?
Well, but I think if they had gone in, and I think RT would have caught him.
I think it would have too.
Nah.
I think he.
It sounds like RD's the GOAT when
RT.
it comes to this undercover stuff. I mean,
RT.
RT. He sounded like he was probably as good as you could be at that job.
Yeah.
I think he's the real deal.
What was the timeline that he was doing this? What years?
Late 80s through 18 years past that. So like the mid, like 2006 or 4.
Yeah.
Well, I got a question for you.
So I wonder how much since the emergence of social media, they haven't had to go undercover as much.
It's totally different.
Is it?
People tell
So
off
when
on themselves.
so Russ Arthur, the Forest Service law enforcement guy that I interviewed, he called the Forest Service before he talked to me, and just said, "Hey, is it okay if I talk to this guy?" And they were like, "Sure." And he said it was because the undercover world is so vastly different. Used to, you could just show up and have an ID and say
Yeah, I
your
mean,
name, and
They'd be searching Bob Thomas's social media for the last 20 years right now if you showed up.
Well,
so it's different tactics.
here's my question. If they took that many turkeys, how did it affect the population in the years after?
You got to talk to the
You're gonna have to
biologist
talk
about
to the
that.
biologist.
I figured
Sherry.
you already had on that because I know turkey density is a question thing you like to
Well,
follow up on.
You know how it is. They were, if you can kill 40 turkeys in a
You
year,
gotta-
you're in a good turkey
Yeah.
area. Number one. So they had a robust population.
But how was it afterwards?
I
Well, you
I
need to
don't
figure
know.
that out.
I don't know.
You need to look into that.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely, the ethical position is that game populations are owned by all the people. So
Mhm.
that guy was taking more than his share. So he was taking game away from other people, and so.
It sounded
Yeah.
like they didn't have too many hunters back then if you had that many turkeys. That's a lot
They
of
were in a
turkeys.
good area. They were in a good area. What'd you think about it, Mr. Farrier?
Well, a couple of things jumped out at me about that I just had never thought of before, but it makes you think about your own psyche a little bit, But he said that he caught every one of those people basically by stroking their ego, putting them on a pedestal, he said. And so that'll tell you something about the human mind that wants to be bragged on.
That's why they
Or-
get caught on social media now because they can't resist posting it.
Yeah.
Everybody likes to brag.
That's why
Yeah.
I was wondering if they've had less agents since social media, because they can just scroll through Instagram and find them now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And another thing that was a little bit stood out to me was I never thought of this, but he said that he went into that job and done that for all those years and put up with all that stress and was very successful at it and was able to overcome all of the challenges of it, but he couldn't stand to go home and take care of his family. He couldn't stand the stress of taking care of his kids or fixing the roof on the house, but he can go undercover for years and handle that.
But he was living a good life undercover.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah.
I thought, but
That was selfish. It sounded
He
selfish.
undoubtedly was getting some sort of rush out of it too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was like it probably wouldn't affect everyone the same way, but undoubtedly he may not say it and he may not even realize it, but he undoubtedly was getting some sort of adrenaline rush. I mean,
Yeah.
He had no cares.
I'm not trying to
nothing.
say he's a bad guy or nothing. I'm just saying it was probably like his fuel.
Well,
you know,
he talks about it, and it's hard. I talked to him for almost 4 hours, and y'all heard 30 minutes of it. The podcast was an hour long, but you actually heard RT talking for 30 minutes. So I mean, like he went into that. Oh, he was like absolute adrenaline rush. He
Yeah,
said
yeah.
constantly. He said you walk into a new house with a guy and you don't know what's about to happen, and at any second your cover could be blown. He said it's just constant fight or flight, and he thrived on that.
I'm going to say it was more that than it was. I mean, I'm not trying to defend a guy or nothing, but I mean, it was probably more that, enjoying that adrenaline rush than it was actually, not being neglected. I mean, he let on like he's neglecting his house and his family and everything, but it probably he was neglecting it, but he wasn't neglecting it because he was a bad guy. He was neglecting it because this rush and this adrenaline rush was drawing him back so hard, you know.
As a
Yeah.
mama,
I mean-
I can't see
I mean-
anything that would take you from your kids, though.
I've made a
Yeah.
comment
Leaving them
about
like that, I
when
couldn't.
me and Sherry first got married. I mean, this is as irresponsible as it gets. I remember quitting jobs to deer hunt. Now, how stupid is that? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, it don't make me a bad person, I mean,
Just a little bit.
but some things, I mean, sometimes you let things draw you
Yeah,
away from your
absolutely.
responsibilities,
Is that why you
Absolutely.
But he
don't?
didn't leave us.
Is that why you don't deer hunt anymore?
I do the hunting now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I couldn't see leaving my kids for that long. That would break
Yeah.
my heart.
Yeah. Yeah.
There would be no adrenaline. That'd be almost like the druggies that say they can't get off of drugs for their kids' sake because they like that high too much.
I'm not
He was
saying
addicted.
it's- I'm not
no,
saying
I'm
it's
saying
good
he
or
is.
bad.
He is like addicted to the high if he can leave his kids that long almost.
Right. Sure. I was really glad to hear him say that, and the way he said it, I believed him. He said he has a really strong relationship with his kids now.
I'd like to question his kids and see how old were they? And, and I bet they've got some stories that he don't want to hear.
Oh yeah.
As adults,
I'm
they may
sure.
understand it,
I'm sure.
but when they were little, I bet they didn't.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I think that's where it felt to me like he's taking responsibility for that now.
Yeah.
And that's good.
I mean, that takes a lot to say that I neglected my kids and I missed this, and this,
Yeah.
and he admits it wasn't worth it.
Yeah.
I
yeah.
caught myself all throughout that thinking, man, that'd be a pretty cool job.
You know
And
when
then
you
all of a
said you
sudden
got on
there'd
me?
be parts like, oh man, I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
And it's just, I was back and forth, and I'd be like, oh, that sounded like that'd be, right down my alley. And then all of a sudden, oh, I couldn't do that, And
Yeah.
it's just, so it's kind of one of them deals, I mean, I'm sure there's things about it he didn't like, throughout all that, but all in all, it suited him to a T, and he's actually pretty daggum good at it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
How long was he in law enforcement before he retired?
He worked 18 years undercover, but I think he was a couple of years as a uniform. Well, I know for sure a couple of years as a uniformed officer before that. So
About 20 years.
20
So,
plus. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a lot of stress. 20 years would be a lot of stress.
How long are you going on?
17.
17.
Yeah.
he deals with a lot of stress.
I deal with a lot of stress.
He can't please everybody.
Nonstop. Yeah.
Now, are you gonna run for sheriff next election?
Yeah, we'll just see what
Can we
happens.
talk about
between-
that?
We'll just see what happens between now and then.
Do you need us to help you with your campaign on bear grease?
Oh, yeah.
When is it? Is it next year?
Nah, it's still a couple years away. It'd be a year and a half, actually. I
Jumpy,
think.
with your credentials, you would be the only sheriff at this time in North America that I know that we could put the whole bear grease brand behind to get
Yeah,
reelected.
that's awesome.
So
He's a
with
very
the blue
good sheriff.
ticks, the mules, Brian, were you had two great points there. Were those? Do you have anything else to say?
Well, I just had a question in my mind. I wonder, I'm not taking nothing away from the guy, but how good would he have been without those informants? His whole career
Oh,
was
yeah.
set up on the informant thing,
Absolutely.
And I know you got to have them
Had a
To
good
do-
team. Had a good team
to
didn't
do
he?
that job.
Yeah. And you know
But-
what, those guys, when you're with him, and this is just stuff that he talked about his boss and all the people around him. He gave a lot of credit to other people. He really did. On the podcast, it's like I wanted to talk about how great he was.
Yeah.
But is that what you're saying? Just like he was around a team of people?
Well, yeah, that, and then the
If somebody
people
wasn't
that
snitching, he couldn't do it.
right. If it wasn't for the scumbag that would throw his own mama in front of a train to get out of trouble, he might
Oh,
not
I
have
see
could have
what
got
you're-
some of those convictions.
I see what you're saying.
But he also had a good close knit team, like you're saying, on his side too.
Yeah.
No doubt about that.
Yeah.
But that just goes back to me. I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I put a lot of stock in honesty, and whenever a guy's stands up and says that it's pretty much all propped up on a lie, then I got my guard up, you know.
Yeah.
But I would be all for whatever tactics he had to use if he was out there catching somebody that was mistreating little kids or raping women or something like that, you know. So
Yeah.
I had a little bit of a question there about that.
So you felt like it was a little too much, kind of like Dave, a little too much force for something.
I don't think
Like
we can
what
wrap
he
our
did.
mind
I
around anybody poaching like that.
I think
You know?
Dave and Bryan both. I mirror what they're thinking too. You know, it was a little extreme, but it's just like what Sherry just said is a great point. I can't wrap my mind around
A poaching ring like
how
that.
bad something could be in a poaching world. You know, I mean, I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I imagine too, if they're poaching that bad, then like you said, they held up
I mean,
gas stations. They're
They were
plotting
willing to kill
a
somebody.
guy,
I mean, they're
Yeah.
different.
Oh, and I came to him to talk about wildlife stuff. Almost everything involved drugs, and I mean they were getting convictions for everything. Like he was law enforcement, so he didn't have just jurisdiction over a guy killing an illegal turkey. You know, if that guy's selling drugs or if this guy's doing,
yeah.
you know, whatever.
And that just blows my mind how this guy got inside with these guys and talked his way out of drinking and driving. You know, he wasn't supposed to drink and drive, you know, and didn't need to drink and drive. And they're obviously probably doing drugs around him not doing any drugs. I mean, how do you fit in with these scumbags, you know what I mean?
Well, they said on there like he'd show up with big horns and stuff like that and turkey fans that he got from the DNR.
I so bad want to give the biggest spoiler. Okay.
We're going to listen.
Spoiler
Don't do it.
alert.
Don't do
I'm
it.
not going to tell the whole thing. RT is on the stand. He's in court.
Looking at these people.
All 26 minus one of the guys that he is about to. It's so complicated. It'll give it all away. Basically, they ask him the defense.
Had
Thinks they can
some
get
stuff on
RT
him, yeah.
on drinking and drugs, and they straight up ask him, "Were you ever drunk with this man?" And it's so good to hear RT tell it. I can't tell it, but he told him the truth. And then he said, "Have you ever done drugs with this man?" RT tells the truth. Anyway, it was incredible the way he did it. And I'll tell you afterwards. I got to leave it as a shocker for
Yeah,
everybody else.
that's
That's in the next episode. But he navigated through all kind of wild stuff. All kind of
It
wild
would have
stuff.
been a wild life to live. I know. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
That's what I said. I mean, it'd be a lot of fun.
Well, hey, we've been going a while here. Closing thoughts. Hey, okay. There is a set of shed antlers right over there. How big are those horns, Alvin?
$199.
196.
I don't know. Is it a 25-point buck? How many
I
points?
never even counted them. A buddy of mine scored them, but I've never even counted them.
Giant set of non-typical antlers that were found over here somewhere.
7 miles.
And
Yeah, 7
tell me what the guy said that you showed those to while you were working.
My
give us the
brother-in-law,
full version.
My brother-in-law found the
3
first
sets.
match set at the ranch house.
In the
and
feed yard.
brought them over to us, and I was like, whoa, you know, I mean, I know quite a bit about deer horns, and I was like, them are not normal, you know, and they were like 170 inches, you know. And the next year he finds a single, and then never did find the other one. They're right behind the ranch house, like coming up behind the ranch house. He's finding
At
them
the troughs.
when he's feeding. He's not looking for sheds, you know. And anyways, the next year he finds this final set, and he brings them over to the house, and we got all of them in there. He give them all to us. He's not a deer hunter, nothing. Anyway, shed horn hunter. Anyways, I had them, and they're a magnificent set of horns, you know. So
Beautiful
I'm carrying them
set of
around,
horns.
you know, everywhere and showing different people, you know, and guy I worked with, and a lot of comments about them, you know, different comments. Boy, I'd like to kill that one and all this, you know.
And where are you working? You're working on
Pipeline. yeah.
Pipeline. We were doing
Yeah.
a pipeline job with Tonga, and this guy was actually from Arkansas. He's an Arkansasier. Anyway, Arkansan. Anyway, he was a dozer operator, and I knew he was a crazy fanatic deer hunter, you know, and I was like, hey, check these out, you know, and he comes over and he gets his hands on them, you know, and he just kind of don't say nothing for a few minutes, you know, and he's looking at them and he's turning them this way and turning them that way, and I'm kind of waiting for him to say something, you know, because it's kind of a moment of silence, moment of pause there, you know, and he just looks me straight in the eye and he says, I'd go to jail to kill this deer right here. or he said I would. His exact quote was, "I would go to jail trying to kill this deer." And I about fell over. I busted out laughing, and he didn't crack a smile. He was not joking. And I was like, go to jail over a deer?
Man, I can't wait.
It blew my mind.
I can't wait for Mark Kenyon one day to hand me a set of horns, and I'm gonna do just what Alvin's buddy did. I'm gonna look at
And
my
I don't
eyes
think,
and say, I'd
you-
go to jail trying to
You'll
kill
have
him.
a
I don't
hard
think anybody
time
killed
not-
him.
You'll have a hard time not cracking a smile.
Yeah, I don't think
Well,
anybody
it was
ever killed that deer.
It was a
Really?
pretty good
Yeah.
hideout deal because the guy that lived right behind the ranch house never would. He denied it. I confronted him. I was like, "Hey, you got pictures of that deer?" "No, what deer you talking about? I want some good ones." And then after the deer didn't show up for a couple of years, and the horns didn't show up for a couple of years, and to our knowledge, he finally admitted to it, and I actually seen daylight pictures of the deer.
Oh wow!
He showed me daylight pictures of the deer, and he actually, admitted to it. Obviously, showed me, but no one else. I never talked to anyone else in that area that ever had pictures of that deer, but he did. He had a bunch
Travis
of, and he
said
hid
he
it for
saw 'em.
several years. He didn't tell nobody.
Wow.
No, I
Kept it a
couldn't do
secret.
that.
Brian
Like,
and
look
Brian
here.
and Rhino both know him. I'll tell you who it was when we get off here.
But yeah, I don't think because I think if somebody killed him, we'd have heard about it. I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
Nothing else?
yeah, you'd heard about
because
that. You'd heard about
the
that
processing plant's right down the road too, and he knew about them. He'd seen all the
Oh,
sheds.
Yeah.
And
boys, I'd go to jail trying to kill that deer. I would this week, man. Me and Dirty Dave have been trying to kill. We'd kill one a lot smaller than
we
that
should have
deer.
never
Real happy.
showed. We should never showed him then and snuck out there and put one horn in front of the camera.
Well, hey, it's been fun having all you guys on. Jumpy,
Yes, sir.
you're a big Bear Grease man.
Yes.
You listen to most Bear Grease podcasts?
Several times over.
Yeah.
Probably your biggest fan.
He needs
Well,
autographs hat.
Right on.
You want my
man.
hat? He got me a hat. You want my hat?
Right on.
He'll autograph it for me.
Well, I appreciate it. I do. I appreciate it.
She's got my hat on.
No, I don't. I got
had
mine
that
on.
put up. I was saving it.
Oh,
Got the Bear Grease hat.
not
Closing
now.
thoughts, anybody? RT, this is your last chance to say anything about RT Stewart.
If he
I'm
needs an
looking forward to
assistant,
the
I will
next
take
one. I
that
mean-
job.
I don't.
Sherry,
I
you
will.
can't be an undercover agent.
I don't listen as much as I mean. I
Upset
listen
Alvin.
to the stuff that when I flip through your podcast reeler. If it looks interesting, I'll listen. I'm not a faithful listener, but I'm really
Yes, yeah,
looking
he is.
forward to this next one. I really am. I kind of want to hear the rest of this stuff.
Yeah. Big Dirty Dave.
I'm excited to hear more. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm crossing my fingers.
Do you have
we
friends?
get a buck even close to that size walking in front of us
I would
tomorrow.
I'd kill a buck with just the amount of inches off of one side of his antler.
Absolutely.
I should have known you as a Yankee. You're wearing Crocs.
Oh, Dave's got Crocs.
Oh,
Way to go, Dave. Just
Well,
take
my
the
feet-
vibe
my-
right out of those.
Rhino wears them too.
Crocs and socks.
Uh-oh. Crocs and socks, the Farrier?
Not
On
to
the
work.
boat. On the boat.
On the boat. On the boat. Well, thank you guys so much. Been a pleasure. And yeah, this is the first podcast we've done in Southeast Oklahoma. So
Around the campfire.
this is good. This is good. This show is sponsored in part by BetterHelp. Around New Year's, we get obsessed with how to change ourselves instead of just expanding on what we've already done right. Maybe you finally organized one part of your space and you want to tackle another. Or maybe you're taking your supplements every morning and now you actually want to eat breakfast. In the last year, I've been more diligent about going to the gym on a regimented schedule, and it's made a lot of difference in my life. Therapy helps you find your strengths so that you can ditch the extreme resolutions and make changes that really stick. Therapy is helpful for learning positive coping skills and how to set boundaries. It empowers you to be the best version of yourself. It isn't just for those who've experienced major trauma. If you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Celebrate the progress you've already made. Visit BetterHelp.com/grease today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp.com/grease.
I'm sure a lot of you guys remember the old ceremonial hunting tradition of eating the heart out of the first animal you kill. Meat from those organs are among the most nutrient-rich foods on the planet. You can get those same benefits your ancestors craved via convenient daily capsules from Heart and Soil. Find out more at heartandsoil.co. And remember, use code MeatEater for 10% off your purchase.